evangelical freaks like Mike Huckabee as the Israeli ambassador. Like, these guys are insane.
It's why it is very heartbreaking for me too. Look, I think one of the reasons people will be mad that you're on the show is because you're like a proud anti-Zionist, right? Like you said that. I've gotten shit for saying.
I was about to say anti-Semite. I was like, damn.
Joining us today, anti-Semite dumbass.
Yeah.
No, but like I actually like a couple like 2 or 3 years ago, I said on Ponte America like that I described myself as a Zionist, which got people upset too. But what I said then and what I still say now is, and I actually had the same conversation with Bernie, is like you ought to denounce the destruction and death in Gaza. You ought to denounce the moral abomination that is taking over the West Bank on its own terms, because it is morally reprehensible.
Yeah.
It is despicable. It is these are war crimes being committed against innocent Palestinians who are paying with their lives for the crimes of Hamas. And you don't need to go further than that. What I'm saying is, it is also terrible for Israel, and you don't need to care about that.
No, I agree.
No, I know.
I do care about
that. What Bernie said, I always appreciate what he has to say on this issue. When he said is that basically even Israel does not understand the way in which they're becoming an isolated pariah nation, and so people will be mad to have someone who is a self-proclaimed anti-Zionist on this show, but like, I am someone who has called himself a Zionist, and I am against this because I believe it doesn't serve Israel's interest either. And that to me is what is so devastating about the outcome of this election, in part because of policy, in part because Joe Biden is such an kind of incomprehensible messenger on one of the most delicate and contentious topics in American politics. We now have Donald Trump, who is able to elide what his actual views would be on this issue. And we have seen what happens in Israel when you have someone like Trump in power at a moment of crisis. And now there is Trump back in office here. And if you are concerned about the lives of Palestinians, if you're concerned about continuing instability and violence and death in that region, this election has just made everything so much fucking worse.
American foreign policy being so uniparty on this issue is genuinely frustrating. And it's genuinely damaging for Israel, because we recognize how our fellow Americans are becoming more reactionary every single day, especially with this new Trump election. You see people that formerly maybe had different opinions go, you know what, maybe it is good to deport 20 million people violently by utilizing the military potentially. This is something that the Donald Trump administration has said they're going to do.
Well, at the very least, even if people don't believe that'll happen or didn't understand, like, these things are not like the expectation that Donald Trump taking all of these extreme positions would be enough. That just wasn't true.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to explain here is that before you know it, people can succumb to reactionary feelings and reactionary sentiment and find themselves in the throes of fascist ideology without even recognizing it. Mm-hmm. And I think examining that is important in an academic setting. That's why we have Holocaust studies, right? That's why we have genocide studies as an entire field, to specifically understand exactly how Nazi Germany got to that position, or fascist Italy got to the position that it got to. And I think that, you might even disagree with me on this, but like, that's where Israel is. That's where Israel is at right now. They have become an incredibly angry culture, an incredibly angry country that has succumbed, especially since the assassination of Yitzhak Rabin, who wasn't exactly a great guy for Palestinians either. I mean, he was known as the guy who deliberately tasked the Israeli security forces in breaking the hands of children for stone throwing, right, in the first Intifada. That guy was the off-ramp for peace negotiations with Palestinians, and they assassinated him. And his assassins and people who are backing his assassins, like Itamar Ben-Gvir, like Bezalel Smotrich, are now firmly a part of the Israeli establishment, the current government
Israeli
coalition.
Government.
It's kind of crazy that people have the audacity, people who read Wikipedia pages have the audacity to claim that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about when it comes to foreign policy, and that I'm out of my element. Like, it is kind of wild that they just rely exclusively on mainstream narratives and the fact that people just genuinely don't know anything about this kind of shit. To just basically say such slanderous statements, Yeah,
well,
yeah, maybe that's why I'm giving talks in the UK.
Also, there are also hundreds of thousands of Israelis who have protested this government.
Yeah, for different reasons, but for sure.
Yes, and again, I just think it's important. Yes, Israel is responsible for Israel's actions, but we do need to separate Benjamin Netanyahu and his conduct from the Israeli people. That doesn't mean they're not responsible in the same way that America is not George W. Bush, right? But America is responsible for what George W. Bush when he is in command of our armed forces. Yeah, but we understand that distinction.
Of course. The problem is you have to also look at the Overton window, though, in any society, in any culture, in any country, right? And I think that, and I come from, I'm Turkish. Like, I come from a country with a conscription. Like, I understand what ultranationalism is. I've lived through it. I've experienced it. I know what it's like when Turkish people hear me say, like, that the Armenian genocide is real, for example. Like, that's like a non-starter, right? That's like, you can't say that. What are you talking about? I learned in school that it wasn't real, right? Like, I understand how a country can become more and more right-wing, where even the liberal position is still committed to the maintenance of an apartheid. And I think that is where we're at with Israel, and we have to restrain Israel as we are the number one partner of Israel, whether it be the weapons that we give to Israel, whether it be the financial support that we give to Israel, or whether it be the trade partnership that we have, or the financial partnership that we have with Israeli companies. We have a lot of influence over what Israel does, and I think over the course of the last couple of decades, especially with Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel has become a more and more right-wing nation.
Yes, it is a country that now views itself as being isolated and under siege, right?
Yeah.
Like, all of this is...
This is really funny. When people say it's totally on site for commies like Hasan, what are you going to do, man? You're going to come to my house and suck my cock? Is that what you want? Huh? You saw the meat pic? Are you doing meat watch? Huh? You saw the meat on Maine and you're like, damn, I want it in my mouth. Is that what it is, big boy? I unbanned you. You can speak. You can speak on it if you want. Is that your goal? A little bit of meat watch for you, huh? Is that what you're going to do? You're going to come over, you're going to suck my dick dry, huh? Is that what you're going to do? It's on site for commies like you? Okay, dude. Okay, psycho solitaire. Type of motherfucker that literally perishes at the mere prospect of having a social interaction with a fucking cashier. Dumbass.
Like, we have moved in the wrong direction in a bunch of, like, this is all gotten to be so kind of hopeless. Israel faces recrimination from around the world, feels isolated, feels like it needs to turn inward to protect itself, views itself as being
it's going
under
the Rhodesia route.
Attack. Well, it's like the question right to me is like, how do you break that cycle? I agree it requires a ton of American pressure, but it also, I think, like the turn, like anti-Zionist fervor, like to me, like anti-Zionism itself is not a path to where we ultimately need to go, which is a peace and Palestinian self-determination, right? Like that's what I believe in. Like that's what I care about. That's where I want this. Like Israel as a country that no longer feels constantly under threat. Palestinians being able to live in peace and safety without being under occupation, in control of their own destiny. And to me, like that, like it's become a kind, like that is a two-state solution. And anything that drives towards that, I think is ultimately the direction we need to go. Right now, we're moving in the opposite direction, which is why this all feels so hopeless to me.
Well, I mean, look, I used to be of that same mindset maybe like a decade ago as well, where I resort to the likes of Avi Shaleem on this, or Ilan Pappé on this, in terms of like my analysis of it. But like the settlement operations and the so-called peace process that were, again, funded by America as well, and still funded to this day by like the likes of Kufi, Christians United for Israel, which is the oftentimes not talked about part of this equation that is significant, and dare I say more significant than whatever Jewish Americans think about Israel. Like it's the right-wing evangelical Christians that are the number one funders of the settlement project.
But it's also like the consequences for the expansion of settlements.
Yeah, well, that's
and the use of settlement, like what was once expanding settlements as part of a negotiation tactic towards what would ultimately have been a solution is now just a plan to take over the West Bank.
Yeah, no, it's developing Bantustans, which they did, and my point is that has made it virtually impossible for a two-state solution to exist, which is why I think that like Israel already maintains sovereignty, and that as an apartheid state, what needs to happen is to abolish the apartheid.
So Hasan is a fascist, aha. We all believe in violence at the end of the day, right? What are you saying? I just said, if you want to come over and suck my cummies, I'm not interested, okay? I like that you not so subtly threatened me with death, and then immediately are like, oh, you seemingly are a fascist and all you know is violence. Like, what kind of pussy shit is this? The fuck? That's a crazy fucking... That's crazy backtracking. It's totally on site. Cope, it's coming for you. And you helped create this atmosphere. It's totally on site for commies like Hasan. Literally unbanned 4 minutes later, so Hasan is a fascist. We all believe in violence at the end of the day, right? Fucking idiot. Bitch.
Which is something that, unfortunately, many Israelis refuse to reckon with, at least right now, because that would mean 5 million Palestinians, and including the 2.5 million Palestinian citizens of Israel, would now constitute a demographic majority in this area, in this land that Israel enforces sovereignty over, and that is terrifying for its demographic destiny, its demographic goals in general.
Well, just also okay. That's something to add. Like, you can point, like, it's also something that Israel is never going to assent to.
No, I understand that, which is why I think, like, the pressure campaigns, albeit minimal, but the change in attitude and the way that, like, a lot of people see this dynamic is significant, and I think that inevitably things will change, and we're seeing it right now. We're seeing it with the ICC decision. Like, this is a truly unique moment. We're seeing it with the ICJ court case. We'll see where it goes, but I think that. I understand why even members in the State Department that I would directly be at odds with in the way that we examine the world have from the start tried to say this can't happen, that we need to use the liberal Zionist off-ramp immediately. We need to just put Benny Gantz in charge or something. Like, we need to just single out Benjamin Netanyahu, say he's the bad guy, and then move in the direction.
Yeah, negotiation tactics kind of crazy. Look, I gave a lot of I definitely was not going to be super aggro on this conversation, because it was like I was trying to be as nice as possible with as much grace as possible.
Move in the direction where, like, a more manageable, more liberal person, a more moderate person can be left responsible and restrain Israel in some way in order to continue Israel being an unsinkable aircraft carrier in a resource-rich region. And
Hasan, you're a rich commie clown, enemy to free, liberty-loving Americans. You can be mad that your enemy recognizes you, but it doesn't change anything. Playing dumb while holding a weapon, acting like it wasn't a veiled threat. Haha, you are a hypocrite. Brother, you literally said you were going to come to my house and try and kill me. You said it was on site. I think you misunderstood. You just saw, I don't know, you saw the fucking Second Amendment, and it just frustrated you for a second, I think. That's what it is. That's not me being a hypocrite. I have a right to defend myself, don't you think?
And they didn't even listen to that. Like, the
but
top
also
of
because
the,
it was
the top of the administration just didn't even listen to that.
Well, because Netanyahu is an obstacle to any kind of peace. I mean, this is we have
the PFP law. You need to see this. Oh my God, that's what you look like. Brother, please have a family, raise your kids. You should not be on fucking Twitch crying in a person's chat like this. Go talk to your fucking kids, man. The fuck are you doing? I never said I was coming to your house, cope, kid. Why are you acting like you didn't say it's on site for commies like you? Cope, it's coming for you, and you helped create this atmosphere. And now you're like, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. There's a reason why your kids are probably embarrassed of you, big dog. It's because, you're doing this shit. Don't do this shit. Also, I am noticing that you did not deny that you want to suck my dick. So that's cool. I don't want it, but, I will take it as a compliment.
We have been in moments in the recent past where Palestinians and Israelis were at the table and peace seemed within reach, right? And that seems very far away right now. We were. And that seems very far away right now. But to me, that still seems closer than a single state. And to me, there's that sort of a future of heading towards that is a future of a lot more chaos and violence and terror and horror. And so I come back to my my view remains that like the future, that like the only hope is some kind of a two-state solution. As far as that seems right now, people want to say otherwise, fine. But
I think they're gonna annex the West Bank. I think that's what I think is gonna happen. But
let's move.
Trump's gonna let it happen. Like Trump.
This is the thing. Like,
and it's not even because Trump is like ideologically committed to the Zionist project in the way that like Joe Biden was. It's because Miriam Adelson gave him $100 million. That's it.
Trump doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about anything. He's just like, yeah, these guys gave me money. I'm gonna listen to her, and that's it. And that was really funny because like that's what he's talked about in the anti-Semitism conference that he put together. If you recall, he was like, "I've done so much for you Jews. Why won't you vote for me?" That's what he kept saying. He's like, "If I lose, it's because of you Jews."
I know.
And it was insane because like in his mind, he thinks that's the only thing that American Jews care about. Like it's the dual loyalty trope. But you also can't do that trope in a woke way on mainstream media either. When you are, I'm not saying you're doing this.
Yeah.
I'm just saying like you also can't do that in a more woke way when you're talking about Israel in as many liberal outlets do sometimes when they talk about like, well, you just want Israel to perish, I think, and you're probably anti-Semitic, and that it's just Israel has demographic concerns. It's like, okay, well America has demographic concerns. America has white demographic concerns. That's not that's a non-starter for me. You know what I mean? I don't care. Like,
yeah, I mean, there is also a ton of anti.
And that was, I think, important point that I wanted to land there as well. Am I being too subtle, or is it coming across? I mean, this is not the best audience to ask because you guys know what my perspective is, but.
Anti-Semitism.
Oh, absolutely.
I know you don't. I know.
Yeah,
like, I just making sure
100%.
because yes, and
yeah, it's
like,
skyrocketing.
and like that. But like again, like we got to move on from this. But like it's just like you see it in our politics, you see it in politics around Israel, like this kind of vicious circle of people feel under threat, they turn inward, they become less and less empathetic towards their neighbors. That leads them to be more and more isolated. And to me, it's like the question is not like I'm not even interested in like philosophical debates, ideologically. It's like how do you break that human cycle? Right. And I think on our side, it starts with just a policy that that recognizes that even if that it is in Israel's interest to stop the violence and to stop the killing, and that moving towards something like the annexation of the West Bank or the permanent occupation of Gaza or whatever it may be is ultimately not in Israel's interest. I know that makes me sound like a neo-lib shill, but that is what I think.
No, I understand where you're coming from. I don't disagree with you. I think that's why I was trying to bring it back to like American politics. And I don't think it's an accident that in the past 3 decades, every single Western capitalist nation firmly planted within the heart of empire, firmly within the comfortable bosom of American imperialism, has shifted dramatically to the right. And in that process, I think, or leading up to that, there was a lot of austerity, a lot of clawing back of social safety nets, a lot of privatization that took place that some people call the enshittification of the economy or the enshittification of everything. And in that process, I think people got more and more angry. And the only people that benefit from that anger are always going to be far-right figures that can point to people that are defenseless and people that are less powerful than you are. And they were able to successfully use the anger to redirect that towards nationalist sentiment, to redirect that towards racism, homophobia, bigotry of all different sorts. And that's why you're seeing the reform movement grow in the UK with Nigel Farage, who now has a higher approval rating than the very conservative Tory-adjacent Labour leadership in Keir Starmer. That's why you're seeing the AfD grow in momentum in Germany. That's why you're seeing Le Pen's party win or also grow as well. Even if she goes to jail, her movement will not, go away. And in every single instance, you have centrist, moderate to like.
How is Cutie running late, bro? Why does chat know she's running late? It's fucking the podcast is in an hour. It's in 40 minutes. How is she running late? Is she still streaming? She's still making food. She's cooking for 17 people. God damn, dude.
Like center right.
Tell her to fucking end her goddamn stream right now and start driving.
Neoliberal party leadership constantly trying to maintain the hegemonic status of neoliberalism and losing out to populist, far-right messaging every step along the way. Because when material conditions worsen, okay, and you might look at the technological improvements and say, what do you mean material conditions are worsening? Like, I can order a Uber Eats and immediately have it at my doorstep. But like overall, the important things like educational attainment, healthcare, public transit, if we're talking about Europe, we don't even have that here in America.
We can talk about it here too.
You know, home ownership, these sorts of things are just getting worse and worse year over year. And it truly ruins people's lives, and it leaves them angry and confused. And right-wingers like Donald Trump, or fascists like those in Europe, like Meloni's party in Italy as well, or Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, like these guys use that opportunity to say, you know why you're mad? Because Muslim refugees came in and they ruined your beautiful European culture.
It's the challenge, right? Is that like things aren't getting worse on every metric. They're not. And if you were to look at the last, I don't know, 50 years of American politics, and if you just showed people the economic data, and you say, I want you to find on this chart where the United States elected a fascist dunce, you would not pick 2024. You might pick 2008. You might pick 1992. You might pick after the stagflation of the 70s. There are a bunch of times you might say, well, that must have, if it's someplace here, it must have been then. And so I do think like we have to. I think housing is a big part of it. I think people being furious that life didn't seem to come. Like people are, I think, traumatized by the pandemic in ways we're still kind of. It's hard to see and hard to find in polling, right? I think there's like a deep anger about like, hey, wait, things never got back to normal. I don't feel normal. Costs didn't come back down. Life seems worse in measurable and immeasurable ways. And I do think part of it is like, yes, it's material, but it's also, I think,
spiritual.
It is. There is something. I think that there was a bargain people were making when all the restaurants where they knew the owners closed and they were replaced by fucking Panera Breads and Subways and chains. And when their supermarkets became chains and the Walmarts came in, right? When people like to blame Walmart, but Walmart is both a symptom and a cause, right? I think like there was a bargain people made. And the bargain was, I'm going to give up on like the kind of dignity and community and sense of place and belonging that I used to experience in my town for this cheap stuff.
Yeah,
but
treats.
It better be fucking cheap.
Yeah,
it's
treats.
not. But I think people are very bad at understanding what they want. And people, I do think that there's this collective feeling of like, hey, we traded something away to these corporations. Not happy with the outcome. And I do think that that's about community.
By the way,
that's
don't worry, I bring up the fact that right here, Chad is all chirping saying alienation.
About meaning.
Yeah, what you're describing, you're describing alienation, but
I am. But like, but that is a big part
in
of
the
it.
Marxian sense, not like alienation in the normal understanding of it. But like, yes, you're right. Americans feel isolated. Everyone feels isolated. Everyone feels alienated. They feel alienated from their labor, and besides that, there is no sense of identity. And I talk about this quite frequently, actually. Our consumption is the only marker for identity. Yeah. Even guns is a very important political identity for a lot of Americans. That's consumption. That's no different than an expensive Gucci bag. Okay, it's actually more expensive in many instances, and the culture that surrounds it is still ultimately at the point of consumption. And when there is a hurdle in front of that, whether it's cost or because you just simply can't go and buy it at the store or whatever during COVID and the lockdowns, everything falls apart because we're a very fragile nation that is. Built on this idea that like as long as I get shit for cheap, I'm fine. I don't really care. As long as the cost of eggs will go down, 20 cents or $1, I don't care if 20 million migrants get deported. Is the calculation that some people made, and many people said it's not going to happen anyway. Now, there is the other side of the story.
But that's why I want to hear the other side. But I just wanted to.
The other side is what I was trying to say is this is what Kamala Harris did wrong, in my opinion. She could have gone up there and said, "I am going to arrest the Walton family," and if she was able to successfully say, "I'm going to arrest the Walton family," and they're going to stand trial, okay, in a military tribunal, and that is going to make egg prices $5 cheaper. Eggs are going to be 10 cents again. Americans would have voted for that. That's my point. So you don't have to go that crazy, obviously.
No, I know. Well, I guess it's just like this to me. Like these are the twin problems of dealing with a fascist threat. One is keeping a big, fractious, progressive, small L liberal movement together. The other is how you defend the value of institutions that don't do that. And like I know you're being.
I'm being hyperbolic. I'm exaggerating.
I know you are. I know you are.
I think that for far too long, deregulation and unconditionally supporting corporations, and even having what you just described as like the formative opinion on antitrust. Like as long as the consumer is happy, as long as the prices are low, we don't care if you monopolize.
But that's the rights view. I mean, we like Democrats are now fighting. Like no, but some of this is like we're fighting back on that stuff.
No, but so that was the rights view, but that was kind of uniparty for a very long time. At least since the 90s.
I think but this is I think conservatives had an ideological view of this.
Yeah.
The Bork view of this. They came in and they said antitrust doesn't mean what it says in the law. It doesn't mean what it says in people's experience of what a monopoly does. It's this one specific definition, which makes it really hard to stop mergers.
Yeah.
And Democrats said, wait, hold on. Like, kind of, Democrats just didn't have a strong view on this. It just wasn't a motivating. It wasn't.
I know, but why didn't they?
Well, I think I think there wasn't. I think that I think the intellectual academic left had to catch up to the damage this was doing. I think Democrats just didn't focus on it, didn't care about it. I also think there is money from donors. Of course. I know you don't need to rhetorically cue me up. I know. But that, like, I think sometimes it is not people saying, oh, I wish we would go after these giant monopolies more, but I got this donation, so no, now I'm not. But it's a culture, a kind of pro-business culture, right?
Yeah.
That like kind of pervaded Democrats since the 90s that made conversations about this kind of thing harder to have, which is different now because Lena Khan is now the chair of the FTC, right? Elizabeth Warren created this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, right? Like there has been a shift, but it is both not enough and not a shift in people's actual understanding of what the Democratic Party
because
is for.
there's no immediate gratification that comes from that.
I know.
And the immediate gratification that is supposed to happen could happen potentially with wide sweeping legislative agenda changes overall, or like clearly communicating a pathway towards like a more just outcome for healthcare, for example. Like that's not something that we're invested in. Like things that touch people's lives immediately is going to yield very positive benefits. I will say this. I think as far as like Lena Khan or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, these are fantastic things that happened under the the watchful eye of the Biden regime.
Well, Barack Obama
and Barack Obama as well. The problem here, however, is that once again, I think out of genuine fear, maybe that they would disrupt or upset the Tony West coalition of the Democratic Party. All of these like major donors that donate to the Democratic Party, they didn't do a good job even explaining what they were doing. And I'll tell you why. Just real quick, I just want to give you an example of the IRS, right? Joe Biden funded the IRS. Every dollar that goes to the IRS, I think, is like what, $7 extra or 30, up to 35, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the exact numbers, but like every dollar that you spend on the IRS, you get 35 in return in America's coffers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's massive. That's fantastic. Republicans hate that.
Yeah.
They hate the IRS, and many Americans also hate the IRS as well. They hate paying taxes, partially because they don't see anything in return for it. And even though the IRS getting more funds actually retrieved a lot of tax dodgers that were refusing to pay taxes, and on top of that, their investigations concluded that I think Coca-Cola had evaded taxes to the tune of $16 billion. Right, one company.
Mm-hmm.
I never heard that from the Biden administration. They never went out and said, this is why we funded the IRS.
Yeah.
Not because we want to come after you and your trailer, okay, in the trailer park with our armed agents or whatever. Republicans, on the other hand, were like 85,000 armed agents are coming to your house.
Yeah.
They're going to kill you. They're going to take away your children, and they're going to take your guns, and they're going to take your trailer park.
I think we paid for not having an effective communicator in the president. Like I think we paid dearly for
It's
that.
not just the president.
I know it's not. I know it's not just the. I know it's
people who just attack dogs, sick them on every television show.
I do think part of the challenge is a lot of people are talking about what these agents would actually do. It just doesn't get covered, doesn't get attention, just doesn't matter. People don't cover this kind of stuff. That's part of it. I'm not saying there aren't Democrats. I agree with you. Like Democrats need to have a kind of combative. Like if that's anything we take away from Donald Trump becoming president is that like clearly we need somebody.
People want a fighter.
They want a fighter. They want a fighter, and like.
And you can't fight for opportunity economy and $50,000 in tax credits for startups. That is not something to fight for. You need to be a fighter, and you need to fight for things that are universally good and that people want: healthcare, fixing the housing market, things like that.
Well, she did do that. Yeah, I just like I agree with you.
But again, even her communication on that is like so much of the Democratic Party is now officially captured by what we would look back in the past as like unimaginably right-wing economic policies, like tax cuts. And tax cuts and a public-private partnership. When I hear those words, I'm like, I'm not regime pilled.
Yeah,
I want to be regime pilled. I want to champion the social democratic regime. I want to make the Democratic Party look like. I want to make the Democratic Party make Olof Palme look like a fucking revisionist right-wing reactionary. Okay. That's what I want. I want trains.
I want trains.
I want better public transit.
Better transit. I want more. I want
socialized housing. Like. Okay. But you're stopping.
I don't know, but like, what do you mean? We can't get into it. We got out of time. We've gone so long.
What I'm saying is like
I am for building millions upon millions of houses everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm for.
Yeah, but no public-private partnership. Build it with federal, publicly funded employees, and build it as a mechanism to claw back the insane housing market prices, to lower them by force.
Okay,
that's what I think.
All right.
I think if you said that, a lot of Americans would be like, I like that idea.
I think if a Democratic politician got out there and said, we are gonna employ millions of Americans, we're gonna have a national jobs program to employ millions of Americans building millions of houses, I think that'd be very popular. I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
You're regime pilled as well.
I am regime pilled. Now, I did go on your feed yesterday to see what you've been up to.
Oh my God.
And
Here we
can we
go.
just put this up?
I think I know what you're going to post.
I was looking for what your reaction was to the Harris campaign podcast, and I just found this. And I just thought, is this what the Joe Rogan of the left would post?
I think Joe Rogan posts actually
Donald
thinks of himself.
Donald Trump wins, and you're like, I think I know what I need to do. I need to post whole.
Yeah.
You getting good reactions to this? Is this getting what you need?
Well, I wanted to show my progress. It's been a while. That's like from 2021 till now, and I mean, I do talk about my fitness journey quite a bit.
You do Pilates?
What?
You do Pilates?
No, I train. I weight train, and then I play basketball. That's what
are you doing for cardio? Nothing?
Basketball.
Basketball?
Yeah, I play basketball 3 times a week, sometimes 4. And that's been very good. I also track my macro nutrients. I track all my calories.
What does that do for you?
What do you mean? It's that right
You think
there.
that's what it's doing?
Picture on the right. That's
think
how
so?
I got there.
Oh.
Yeah.
I use Manjaro. It's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Awesome.
I have family members that use it as well, and it's been
cool.
very helpful.
Yeah, I don't have to think about it anymore.
Well, yeah, it's great. It's fantastic. Do you feel like it's stopped your other addictive tendencies as well?
I'm a better driver. Isn't that weird?
Maybe because you're not on your phone or something?
No, I think it's because I'm not spending so much of my mental energy on diet, and so I'm just a little bit less kind of spent and I don't know, impulsive.
Yeah.
Around other things, and so I don't feel some need to get home 2 minutes faster. It's hard to explain.
Okay.
I don't feel as much of a need
to
find justice on the roads.
I understand.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, you asked me. No, I 100% get it. You asked me why you track your calories or whatever. I get a lot of comfort from the rigidity of my schedule, my regimen, and I don't even think about it because it's just a habit that I have at this point. And for that reason, it's not even a thing I think about at all. It doesn't weigh on me. But when I was, when I was eating in a very unhealthy way, it did constantly weigh on me. I was like, but it feels so good.
I know,
but also
I know.
it's so bad for me. But then,
You feel you get a little bit hopeless.
Yeah.
It's true in politics too.
For sure. I mean, definitely. But you gotta focus on whatever small victory you can have. And it's the same for fitness. And like I said, going back to the Joe Rogan of the left conversation, this is definitely
Manjaro is Ozempic.
something that I talk to my community about quite a bit. And there's a lot of people in my community that have also gone on their own fitness journey. I've been able to inspire them to do this as well. And I think it's important to be physically healthy.
I do just to close this out because we've gone on too long, but there is something about in terms of meaning and a spiritual Christ, I think there's a reason that there's been an appeal of people like the Jordan Petersons of the world and some of the kind of more self-help right-wing types.
Yeah.
And I do think there are a lot of people out there looking for not just sort of answers in politics, but answers about why does I feel unfulfilled, working, not working, whatever it may be. I feel like I'm missing community and the kind of leadership that would come from community.
Bro, this is what she's doing. That's why she's late. God damn. This is crazy.
And I do think that's why sometimes you see I don't know, even on the shows we do, I do feel there's a hunger for something broader than just a political program, but more of a kind of way of grappling with the fact that this version of modern life kind of dares us to ruin our own lives.
Yeah.
I
offer that in my broadcasts every day. I talk about my own personal journeys, and I offer advice. I used to have an advice segment as well.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done it in a while, but I'm going to bring it back. And that's why I also collaborate with other content creators, even if I don't align with them politically, agree with them politically at all. But, there are plenty of people that I know who are my friends, who I think as long as they're like relatively charitable and good and kind people, even if we don't agree on everything politically, it doesn't matter. You know, I find myself in these bro spaces a lot. I've been on almost every single podcast that Trump has been on.
Yeah.
And many of them are run by my friends, like Impulsive. My buddy Mike Malak is Logan Paul's co-host. Not the biggest fan of Logan Paul, but I love Mike. Mike is a fantastic human being. He has an incredible journey of overcoming addiction, and he wrote about it as well. He had a New York Times bestseller. Bradley Martin with the Nelk Boys. I don't really know the Nelk Boys, but like Bradley Martin I like a lot. He owns Zoo Culture. He's a real meathead. And that's and Andrew Schultz as well. I've been on that podcast too. Like these are a lot of these podcasts I've been on as well. And like these guys and their audiences are receptive to what I have to say. And I think like optics play a role in that for sure. Like the way I carry myself, the way I am naturally, authentically, I think is a package that young men are not immediately dismissive of. And I'm very aware of that, and I try to use that for good. And I try to use that to like explain to people that like it's not cool to, you know, shit on random people for no reason. They're like, let them live. Like, what the fuck is this to you? It's not gonna fix your life. Yeah. You're being a kind of a loser, an entitled little loser, and it's not good. And that does work.
Boss baby energy. Yeah.
It works. And I think the size of my community now and the makeup of it is proof of that reality. Like a couple of years ago, I didn't have the numbers that I have now, and virtually every single person in my audience will tell you that like there is one key issue that I have dramatically changed their opinion on, whether it be American foreign policy, whether it be the way that they viewed trans people and were transphobic, but now they're not, or even racist opinions. So that's what I try to do to the best of my ability in my little corner of the internet.
Hasan Piker, good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
When we come back, Congressman Seth Moulton.
I hope it was good. You know? I think it was decent. I mean, I definitely toned it down a bit, especially on the Israel's front. And there was a bunch that was cut out, I think, from that conversation too. But not too much. Nothing crazy. I think they just like cut it for one, to save my ass, really, because I said some stuff about Ryan Ruth. Now let's look at the comments. Let's look at the comments. Please don't remind us about Dan's interview. We aren't mad at you. We're mad at overpaid consultants who ever seem to do losing thing. Such a contrast to that utter pablum from the other day. Right from the jump, they're more hostile to Hasan than they were to the people who blew this. I don't think they were that hostile. The Democratic Party needs serious reform. It's bloated without a touch of consultants and talking heads trying to justify their jobs, leading losing campaigns and not listening to the working class. He was right before. He's right now. The Dems need to grow a spine and not be doormats. This guy's good at articulating his ideas and desires for people in America and around the world. People will call him idealistic, but not only is that what we need, he backs it up with bountiful evidence. Gotta admit, this guy knocked it out of the park about the way I feel about the party and the direction it's gone since 2009. Why does he understand me better than the people who are paid millions of dollars to do? Damn. Like, that guy is probably not the HasanAbi head just writing a fake. So glad you have Hasan on because mainstream Dems watch and listen to you. Must understand the obvious truths Hasan articulates. This Hasan guy seems to really know what he's talking about. Glad to see someone accurately diagnose the Democratic Party's issues. Where has the party of FDR gone?